Welcome to Lady E's Dark Tales. Have you ever lived next to a place that felt wrong? A door you avoided? A presence you couldn't explain? Tonight, we step into the eerie halls of an ordinary apartment building, except for one unit at the very end, where the lights flicker in unnatural patterns and the silence itself seems to whisper. What happens when you realize things just aren't right? Dim the lights, listen closely, and prepare for an unsettling journey in a story I call The Apartment at the End of the Hall.
Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's stream. I've been living in the same apartment complex for 3 years now. It's nothing special, just a 4-story building with 8 units on each floor. The rent is reasonable, the neighbors are quiet, and the location is convenient. At least that's what I tell myself whenever I think about moving. Because the truth is, there's something wrong with apartment 4H. 4H is at the very end of the hallway on the top floor. I live in 4F, 2 doors down. For the first year I lived here, 4H was occupied by an elderly woman named Mrs. Fletcher. She was quiet, kept to herself, and I'd occasionally see her shuffling to the elevator with her small dog. Then one day, the dog started barking. Not just barking, howling. I mean, this wasn't normal dog behavior. It went on for hours before someone called the building manager. They found Mrs. Fletcher dead in her bathroom. Natural causes, they said. She was 87. Midnight Whisper asks, did anything strange happen before Mrs. Fletcher died? Any warning signs? Not that I noticed at the time, but looking back, she had mentioned something about feeling watched in her apartment. I didn't think much of it then. Just chalked it up to elderly paranoia, which was terrible of me, I know. But now, I wonder if she knew something wasn't right in there. The apartment remained vacant for 3 months before a young couple moved in. They seemed nice enough. I'd exchange pleasantries with them in the hallway or by the mailboxes. Mark and Sophie, I think their names were. They lasted about 6 months. I remember the night they left. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard their door slam open, followed by frantic footsteps running down the hallway. I peered through my peephole and saw Sophie, still in her pajamas, pulling Mark by the hand as they raced toward the elevator. They were both crying. I never saw them again. The next day, the building manager told me they'd broken their lease and forfeited their security deposit. They left most of their furniture behind. For a while after that, maintenance workers would go in and out of 4H. I overheard them talking about fixing the issue and sealing it properly. I assumed there was a problem with mold or maybe the plumbing. The apartment stayed empty for almost a year before my current neighbor moved in. I don't know his name. He's a middle-aged man who never makes eye contact. I've never heard him speak, and I've never heard a sound from his apartment. Not a television, not a phone call, not even footsteps. But sometimes, late at night, I see light coming from under his door. Not the steady glow of a lamp or television. It's a pulsing, shifting light that casts long, distorted shadows in the hallway. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I reached out, hand hovering over his doorknob, heart pounding. Just as I was about to knock, the light flickered violently, and then the door creaked open. I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I ran. Cryptid Hunter comments, have you ever tried knocking on his door or talking to other neighbors about him? I've thought about knocking, but something always stops me. It's like my body refuses to get too close to that door. As for other neighbors, it's weird. They all seem to avoid talking about 4H or the man living there. When I bring it up, they change the subject. It's like they're afraid to acknowledge it. Last week, I was coming home late after working overtime. As I approached my door, I noticed the man from 4H standing in his doorway, staring at me. His face was expressionless, but his eyes, they seemed too dark, too deep. Looking into them was like staring into an empty well. He nodded slightly, then retreated into his apartment. That night, I dreamt of Mrs. Fletcher's dog howling. In my dream, I was standing in an empty apartment 4H, but it didn't look right. The proportions were wrong. The ceiling was too high, the corners too sharp, and there was something moving in the bathroom. I woke up in a cold sweat, certain that someone was standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't help but wonder, was something from 4H reaching out to me? But when I turned on the light, there was no one there. Yesterday, I ran into my building manager and casually asked about the man in 4H. She looked at me strangely. She told me that apartment 4H has been vacant since the couple moved out last year. She mentioned they were still trying to fix the issues before they could rent it again. I tried to tell her about the man I'd seen, but she insisted that no one had been given keys to that apartment. She thought I must have been mistaken, but I know what I've seen. Tonight, I'm sitting in my darkened living room, doing this live stream, watching the sliver of space under my front door. There's a strange light seeping in, pulsing, shifting, and I can hear something now. Not footsteps exactly, more like dragging. Slow, methodical dragging, moving down the hallway toward my door. It's right outside. I think someone or something is about to knock. Wait, hold on. Do you all hear that? There's a sound at my door right now. I'm not making this up. If this stream suddenly cuts off, someone please call the building manager at Oakwood Apartments on 7th Street. I need to go check what's...
And so, my beloved audience, we have reached the chilling end of this unsettling tale. A mysterious neighbor, an apartment that should have been empty, and a presence that refused to be ignored. Was it a ghost, a forgotten tenant, or something far worse? What do you think truly lurked behind the door of apartment 4H? Have you ever experienced a neighbor that gave you the creeps? If so, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story sent shivers down your spine, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Lady E's Dark Tales for more eerie encounters. Until next time, sweet screams, my darlings. And remember, not every neighbor wants to be noticed.